Hey everybody, I wanted to show you a quick little example of how I use AI at work. I'm head of marketing at Elvex, and this is the one-click webinar marketing campaign generation flow. And it's really good to get a super advanced blueprint, rough draft of a campaign, get you started in a few seconds. So what that looks like is you start by submitting an idea for the campaign. And that's basically just a sentence. It's like, I want to run a campaign targeting chiefs of staff at companies with more than 250 employees. I want to talk about AI maturity. We're going to talk about tactical next steps for how to advance AI maturity at your business. And it's going to be a webinar. And what's going to happen from there, once I submit that, the AI is going to take that idea, flesh it out a little bit, and then what the AI is going to do is it's going to research the internet. It's going to come up with its own search terms to identify the current conversation and information around this topic. It's going to collect a bunch of information. And then it's going to take this accumulated research and submit it to what I call our belief system. What does our company, Elvex, think about? How does it look at the world? What is its perspective? So it takes all this research that it found on the internet, filters it through our belief system, and creates a campaign messaging document that talks about this topic from our perspective. And that's in a standardized format. Then it takes the AI, the next step, what it does is it takes the campaign messaging document and it generates a webinar landing page that's written in the style of how we write webinar landing pages. After that, it generates an email campaign in our style, and it generates 3 social media posts in our style. Now, let me show you what that looks like. All right, let's get started. Okay, so let's check this out. So I've got the thing that I'm going to submit, which is the same thing that you saw earlier. And then I'm going to hit run flow. So it's going to go through all these steps and you can see it happen here. This will probably take a minute. So now we're looking at the results. And we can see that we submitted the campaign brief and it created this stuff here. We've got the get, the who, the to, and the by. And it has the elevator pitch, all that sort of stuff. After that, it takes that get, to, who, and by, and then it looks for information on the internet, right? So leadership versus employee readiness, assessment frameworks and maturity models, practical barriers and risks, tactical implementation and ROI, regulatory and costs. None of these things are stuff that I submitted to it. It went and found that this is the conversation that people are having about this topic on the internet. Takes that information and it generates an edited campaign brief that has our campaign messaging, our key frames, and all the things that we want to say. And then the next step is it takes that brief and it generates these 3 things. So the first one is the webinar abstract, where it says, here's, who should attend, featured speakers, date and time, all that sort of stuff, the way that we write webinar abstracts. And then here we've got the email campaign for promoting this webinar. And then here we've got the social media posts. So I have a rough draft that I can then copy and paste and edit in a Google Doc or whatever you want. And I have what I need to get started. Took me 5 minutes. The most important part of all of this is that I can configure each step to be exactly what I want it to be. So let's take this, for example. This is the run it through our beliefs step. So in the previous one, it's gone and it's researched all the things on the internet. On this one, what I want it to do is take all that information, take the campaign briefing from earlier, and then create a new draft and put it into this structure, which is our standardized format. You can see here that this is just all kind of lorem ipsum. There's no real details outside of this is the structure of the document that we want to put it in. And then the other part of it here is that I can attach that with a key file. So right here, the data source is the Elvex perspective. So this is the file that I'm using for it to run through our belief system and how we have a perspective on the world. And that's a file that looks like this. With Elvex, we believe AI will completely transform how we work and free us to become the best versions of ourselves. So then when we're making these new marketing campaign drafts and whatnot, it takes the information that it found on the internet, and it runs it through this kind of belief system and this kind of perspective and says, does it fit? Do we have to tweak it? Is there a new way that we should be talking about this kind of information? How do we add something to this conversation? And it generates the reformed, edited thing in our style. It's great.